Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Niad Abdurrahman, and I'm going to be presenting to you Introduction to Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analysis. Let's begin by looking at the types of researchers, as there are three types: primary research, secondary research, and tertiary research. Primary research involves gathering original data directly from the source. It can include survey, interviews, experiments, that provides first-hand information tailored to specific research needs. The most trustworthy or most credible is randomized controlled trials, followed by observational studies, like cross-sectional studies, cohort studies, and case control studies. Some might even include case series and case reports, but not usually. Then we have secondary research, which analyze existing data from previous studies, reports, and publications. It helps in gathering insights without the need for new data collection, and it's often used for systematic reviews and meta-analysis, which is our focus for today. Also for narrative reviews, for literature reviews, and scoping reviews. Finally, we have tertiary research, which is usually done by synthesizing and compiling existing research findings from primary and secondary sources. It includes sources like encyclopedias, texts, and systematic reviews that provide summary of collective knowledge on a topic. To give us clinical guideline, for an example. Before diving deeper into systematic reviews, I wanted to speak to you guys about level of evidence pyramid, which is a visual hierarchy used in evidence-based medicine to rank the strength and reliability of different types of researches. It helps us as clinicians determine how trustworthy evidence is when making a clinical choice. I will go from the least credible to the most credible. The least credible or reliable are background information and expert opinion, followed by case series and case reports, which only report a finding in one individual or a very small group of individuals. Then we have our observational studies, which are our case control and cohort studies, followed by randomized controlled trials. Then we have clinically appraised topics, which are your scoping reviews, your literature reviews, and your narrative reviews, which is an approach to literature reviews through which is a short summary of evidence on a topic. Then we have systematic reviews, and the most credible is meta-analysis. What is systematic review? Systematic review is a structured, comprehensive summary of all available research on a specific topic. It is used to identify, evaluate, and synthesize the findings of all relative studies on a topic. The result that results in a qualitative or descriptive summary of findings that's free of bias. So, in another way of saying it, it is a summary of all the data that we can find on a topic while keeping it free of bias. But keep in mind it is qualitative, aka descriptive. We're describing. There is no numbers. What is meta-analysis? Meta-analysis takes systematic reviews a step further, as it is a statistical technique that combines data from multiple studies, most probably systematic reviews, to provide a full estimate of the effect. So we're looking to find how effective is this management or outcome that we're looking for. It is used to increase the power and precision of estimate of what our risk ratios and mean difference, for an example, to give us a quantitative result, which is our confidence interval. I want you to keep something in mind that we can produce a systematic review on its own, but we cannot produce a meta-analysis without a systematic review. Okay? Next, how do we conduct a systematic review and meta-analysis? There are multiple steps. The first one is to define our research question. What are we looking for? Then we develop a protocol and then we register it. After which we conduct our search, our literature search. After we have conducted our research search, then do we do the screening of the studies themselves to see who's going to be included and who's going to be excluded. After which we extract our data. Then we look at the studies themselves and assess them for risk of bias. Then we perform our meta-analysis, after which we interpret and present our results, and finally we report our findings. Before diving deeper into what the steps of systematic reviews and meta-analysis, I wanted to speak to you guys about something called PRISMA. So, what is PRISMA? PRISMA stands for Preferred Reporting Items for Systematic Reviews and Meta-Analysis, which is a set of evidence-based guidelines used to help maintain transparency and complete reporting of systematic review. So you can't perform a systematic review and meta-analysis without following the PRISMA guidelines. What is the purpose for it? It improves the quality, clarity, and transparency of systematic review reporting. And at the same time, it helps the reader assess the reliability and replicability of the review to see if the study that you have done, your systematic review and meta-analysis, is it reliable? Can it be produced again by someone else? It has so many components, but we have two main components to keep in mind. One is for reporting, like the final result that we have, and one is when we do the study selection. So when we do the reporting, we go for PRISMA checklist, which consists of a 27-item list covering title, abstract, introduction, method, result, discussion, and funding. And for the PRISMA flowchart, it is a visual tool that shows the number of records identified, screened, included, and excluded with reasons. In another way of saying it, it's a very, very detailed way to write a systematic review and meta-analysis, or a study in general. Okay, let's start by our process. As we said, we start by defining the research question. How do we define our question? By PICO or PICO-TF? What does PICO or PICO-TF stand for? P stands for population. Who is the patient or the population that you're doing the study in, that you're looking for? Intervention. I for intervention. What is the treatment or exposure that you're looking for? C for comparison. What is the alternative or control? O for outcome, which are the measured results. T, which stands for time, the duration of the follow-up or the duration of the interval. Okay? We're not speaking about when it was published. No, we're speaking about the duration of the follow-up or the intervention itself, the treatment itself. S stands for the study design, which could be the type of study, like cohort, case control, randomized control trials. Let's give you an example to make it a bit clearer. In adults with hypertension, that's our population, the daily intake of low-dose aspirin, that's our intervention, compared to no aspirin, the comparison. reduces the risk of cardiovascular event. That's the outcome we're looking for over 5 years. So the follow-up was 5 years. That's our time. In randomized controlled trial, that's the study design or study type. Next is developing a protocol. How do you develop a protocol? Protocol is usually divided into three main components: objective, eligibility criteria, and methods. What is our objective? Our objective is the aim of the study, and most probably, or 90% of the time, or 100% of the time, it's your PICO question. So let's give it another example. Here's the example to evaluate the effectiveness of cognitive behavioral therapy compared to pharmacological treatment in reducing symptoms of anxiety in adolescents. So this is our aim. This is what we're looking to do. This is our PICO question. Then we have our eligibility criteria, which is our inclusion and exclusion criteria. For example, the population, which we said here, is the adolescent with anxiety. The study type that we're looking for is cohort and case control, and the languages of the studies themselves are in English. Some might even go into other languages and translate them, but to make it easier, for an example, here is English. Publication year, when was it published? Like, we're looking for articles that were published in the last 10 years. Our exclusion, we're excluding any case reports, any dictionaries, and any animal studies. Then we have our methodology or our methods, which start by the search strategies, which the databases that we're going to use, the keywords, and the filter, and the screening process, which is usually we start by the title and abstract. Then we look at the full text to determine which studies are going to be included. Then we start the data extraction method. Are we doing it on a form? Are we doing it on a software like Excel or Covigance? It depends. Then we have our risk of bias assessment tool, and there are many of them. We have Newcastle Otaha, Cochrane Robust 2, Cochrane Rob 2. After formulating a protocol, it is important to register it. It's a must. And it's and most of the journals would require you to have your systematic meta analysis be registered for it to be eligible for publication. So, where do we register our systematic review meta-analysis? We register it on Prospero. What is Prospero? Prospero stands for the International Prospective Registration of Systematic Reviews, which is an online global website um, where research registers protocol of systematic reviews in health and social care before starting. You have to register it before starting. Why do we need to register? To prevent duplication of systematic reviews, to promote transparency in reviews methodology, and to improve research quality and credibility. Next is we have our literature search. First is where did we search? What databases did we use to search? Then, what are the words that we used? Like what were our relevant keywords? Like for an example, for the databases, there are many, which we have PubMed, Medline, Embase, Cochrane, Google Scholar, Scopus, Web of Social, and many others. The relevant keywords that we use, for an example, we have here anxiety, adolescence, cognitive behavioral therapy, and pharmacological treatment. And filters. What were the filters that we used? Like, for an example, we wanted in the last 10 years, so we'll set our filter for the last 10 years. Then the study design, we said we want them in case controls and cohorts, so that's another filter that we're going to implement. And If there is any other filter, we'll have to include it. Keep in mind that it's very important to take notes and document everything starting from the date of your first research in these websites for each and every website and how many researches did you find. We will go deeper into it on another lecture. Then we have our study selection, in which we first screen the studies that we find first by title and abstract, then by full text, to see if they are eligible to be included in our study. It's usually done by multiple reviewers, at least two, and after which we document the selection process in the Prisma flowchart. If you remember, we spoke about it and we said it's the visual tool that shows the number of articles that we identified, then screened, then included and excluded, and the reason for exclusion. This is an example for it. As you will see on the first one, it shows the record that we have identified and from which databases. So a total is 1,217. And from each database, we included the number we have found. In addition to studies that were found outside of these databases. After removing the duplication, we found that we have a total of 305 articles in which we screened and found 144 non-eligible, and we ended up with 161 that were eligible. After viewing the full text, we found that 141 out of those 161 were not eligible. So now we have 20 articles that are involved in our systematic reviews and meta-analysis that fulfilled our inclusion criteria, of which we only found 4 with enough data to produce a meta-analysis. Okay? Data extraction. This is when we extract the relevant data for our included study. We usually use a standardized form called extraction sheet. It could be Google or Excel, and it has to include the study design, the population, the intervention, the outcome, and the results. And it's often double-checked by another reviewer. What is the data extraction sheet? It is a structured tool used to collect data or key information from each study, included in the systematic review or meta-analysis. It ensures consistency, reduces bias, and facilitates analysis. Okay? It usually includes the study details, the population, the characteristic, intervention and comparison, outcome measured, results, risk of bias assessment, and additional notes. Then we will perform our risk of bias assessment, which is a process of evaluating whether the study design, conduct, or analysis may have been systematically distorted, may have systematically distorted the results away from the truth. So we perform the bias assessment to check if the data in the studies is actually trustworthy or not. We use tools like Cochrane, risk of bias tools for randomized controlled trials, ROBRIN1 for non-randomized studies, Newcastle-Otaha scale for case control and cohort studies, which are our observational studies. It's usually done as part of the data extraction process by multiple reviewers to further minimize the risk of bias. Then we start our data synthesis. It is the process of combining and the analysis of data from all of these studies that we have combined, which divide into two: qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative, which is the systematic review, in which we describe and compare study findings when the data can't be pulled statistically. It's used when studies are too diverse in methods or outcome. So when we can't combine all of them because they have different methods and outcomes, we we perform a systematic review. If they are not and they are similar, that's when we do a quantitative synthesis, which is our meta-analysis, in which we statistically combine results from similar studies and produce a summary of the effect. Like for an example, our risk ratio, odds and odd ratios, and at the same time we assist for heterogeneity of the studies. Like, is there any variation between studies? Or are they too similar? Yeah, it helps us in assessing that. Finally, you will report your uh, your finding using the PRISMA guideline, in which in the reporting you will use the PRISMA checklist. As we said, it's a list that consists of 27 items that covers title, abstract, inclusion, method, result, discussion, limitation, bias, applicability, and funding. Yes, it's very long. And this is the latest updated one, which is the 2020 checklist. As you can see, it's a 27 item list. So finally, to summarize, systematic review could be divided into four main things or main points: planning, literature search, appraisal and synthesis, and reporting our findings, in which each and every one could be divided further. So you would start by searching for existing review or protocol, then formulating the review question, developing the review protocol, after which you start the search strategy, then start the search systematic search itself, the database, the Grail feature, download citation to reference manager, or another way of saying it, download the articles themselves. Then you start the selection process of the studies. Then you extract the data. Then you synthesize the data. Then you write the review, and then you publish the review. Thank you so much for listening. Do you have any questions?